Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, I did a short last night, yesterday evening, went out at 5:30, 4:30, 5:30, something like that, where we talked about Humza Yousaf having this super duper plan that he was going to go kiss the ring, bend the knee, and ask Keir Starmer to please, very nicely, sir, can we have a Section 30 so we can have another independence referendum? And of course, I said it was openly mocked by people on all sides of the political spectrum. And we're going to have a look at that now because it goes to show that, first of all, Humza Yousaf's only plan in order to get a referendum is to beg for one. He's got no clear pathway to one. He knows he's not going to get the 50% plus one, which I've got to say would be a legitimate argument for the possibility of having another referendum. I get that. He's not even going to be close. He said, well, what if we get majority of seats? Not going to happen. What if we get the most seats of any party? Not going to happen. And that's the problem he's in. He's got no legitimate pathway to it. And so his only recourse is to get down and beg like, a supplicant at the feet of the great god that is Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer, of course, will say no. Let's take a look. So Humza Yousaf ripped apart over claim he will, quote, demand Keir Starmer gives him an independence referendum. He stamp his tiny little feet and go, please, not pleased. We've got to have an independence referendum. I've got to have an independence referendum. I've been promising an independence referendum because we need one. We need one. We need to get away from you. And we're going, and we're crying like a little baby. And Keir Starmer will just look at him and say, well, first of all, the majority of people in Scotland don't want independence. And then he'll say, and there's no way I, as the Scottish Labour leader, will say to my members of Parliament who represent Scottish constituencies, do you want to go now and represent an independent country? Because they'll say no, because they know which side of the bread is buttered. Nobody with a brain would want independence. And Starmer does not want to be the Prime Minister that breaks up the Union. None of them really want that because it's a terrible legacy. And there's also the fact that whilst Starmer may well have a very large majority from after this election, frequently under Labour governments they've only had an election. They've only had the majority thanks to Scottish Labour seats. And indeed, throughout sort of the Wilson's era, if Scotland was an independent country, there wouldn't have been a Labour government in the remains of the UK, as it were. England, Wales, Northern Ireland, had Scotland been independent, there wouldn't have been a Labour government throughout the 70s. And it's doubtful that Tony Blair would have won his second election without a Labour, Scottish Labour. He would have probably got the first one, grant you that, but not the second. And so it's something that Keir Starmer knows he needs. So why would he give it up? But Humza Yousaf has said, oh, no, we must have it. Keir Starmer's a new guy. He's a nice guy. Keir Starmer's brilliant, And then kissing the ring of Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer will no more give him independence than anyone else. He's delusional. He really thinks that if a new guy comes in, he can demand what he wants. He can demand. No one's stopping him demanding it. But no one will acquiesce to those ludicrous demands. And then he get all angry and huffy and sit in the corner, put that little scowly face he has on it, Won't be your best friend at playtime kind of thing. Anyway, the First Minister claimed he would demand that the next Prime Minister grant him a Section 30 order and another Skexit vote, despite this strategy not working out well for Nicola Sturgeon. No. Failure after failure. When you do the same thing and expect a different result, that is a sign of madness. And who said that? Albert Einstein. He was cleverer than Humza Yousaf, let's face it. Humza Yousaf has been ripped apart by both unionists and nationalists over his can't-fail plan to demand an independence referendum if Sir Keir Starmer becomes Prime Minister. Tell me how this can't fail plan can't fail. Because I can see how it can fail on day one. Starmer looks him in the face and goes, no. Where does Humza Yousaf go then? There is literally nowhere to go. Despite his predecessor trying and failing repeatedly to gain a second Skexit vote, the First Minister will attempt the exact same tactic. But his comments were mocked, with even some in his own party pointing out that this will go the same way as it always done, with a rejection. Nicola Sturgeon won an almost record number of Scottish MPs in both 2015 and 2019, but was rebuffed in calls to form a second vote. And quite right too, because she didn't have the majority of Scots votes. She may have had the most seats. That's not the same thing as the most votes. Mr. Yousaf is on track to lose potentially dozens or even over a score. I mean, he could lose, possibly with one poll showing 30 seats. I mean, that puts him in an untenable position as leader as well, but that's a different argument. But he still believes that winning a majority would be enough to force UK Labour's hand. Well, he can believe what he likes. He can believe there's fairies at the bottom of his garden. Doesn't mean that they're there dancing around a little mushroom, does it? He said there's a 99% chance of UK Labour forming the next government. And to me, that says that Keir Starmer doesn't need Scotland to win. But Scotland needs SNP MPs to make our voices heard at Westminster. No, it'll have lots of Labour voices at Westminster. Standing up, speaking for Scotland, not constantly droning on about independence, trying to get something done. Now, I'm not going to say that the Labour are any better. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, at least they're not looking at everything through the lens of independence. And who knows, by sheer damn luck, they might get some things right. He said, in terms of the Section 30 order, of course, I'll be asking Sir Keir Starmer to respect that mandate, which is asking. In fact, demanding that he respects the mandate and the voice of the Scottish people. Well, let's be honest and clear here. The mandate and the voice of the Scottish people is not to have independence. It's not to have a referendum. It's not for the SNP, because more people vote against the SNP than vote for them. The SNP have never had a majority of Scots voting for them. By very definition, that means the majority don't want independence. And indeed, something like 60% of SNP voters don't want independence. And that's very weird numbers, but apparently true. Anyway, in terms of a Section 30 order, he says, of course, I will be asking Sir Keir Starmer to respect the mandate, which is in asking that. He said, he asked whether this means he will lodge a formal Section 30 notice with the new Prime Minister and confirmed he would. I've got Humza on the phone for you, Keir. I'll tell it to piss off. You know. He won't take the call. He won't take the call because he doesn't want the pleasure of saying no. But hey, you know. This would be the fourth time a formal request is made to grant a referendum, with Miss Sturgeon asking Theresa May and Boris Johnson, and Mr. Yousaf requesting one from Rishi Sunak as soon as he was elected First Minister. But this strategy was slated on social media because it won't work. Everyone knows. Labour Party leader Alex Salmond said, Humza is trapped in the classic definition of insanity. Bada bing, doing exactly the same thing time after time, but claiming to expect a different result. This shows why hardly anyone in Scotland, and crucially Westminster, now believes the SNP have any seriousness of intent on independence. And of course they don't. They don't have any serious or intent to do any good while they've got that moron running them, and long may he stay there. But while they've got that moron running them, they can't be serious about anything. The man's a buffoon. Anyway, coming up. Do you think Humza Yousaf will ever succeed at anything? He's got a hate crime bill that's going to fall apart. He's got an independence cunning plan that's going to fail. He's failed in every job he's ever had. He's going to be looking at a challenge to the leadership soon, which he will lose. He's done nothing. He's got nothing at all that he can look back on in later years and say, this was my time in government, this is my time in power, and this is what I achieved that I was successful at. Nothing. Everything has been a complete litany of failure. His whole life has been failure after failure after failure. Weird, isn't it? Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.